Stay tuned. Good afternoon and welcome to ZuMUN and Friends. In this episode of ZuMUN and Friends, Tim reads a passionate letter, I speak to the Secretary Generals, and Luca tries to speak to the chairs again. Let's turn to the news with Daniel Archer.
Thank you, Theo, and welcome back, everyone. This is Saturday, the 17th of April. These cue cards are blank, and these are today's top stories. Our first report comes from right here in our Zurich studio. The news cycle was kicked into full swing yesterday morning when your favorite morning show, ZuMUN and Friends, catastrophically failed halfway through its publicly aired episode. The eggheads and boffins at our production team wrinkled their pretty little foreheads for the better part of the afternoon, wondering what had went wrong between the tech rehearsals that had been in preparation since 7 a.m. and the train wreck of an interview that followed. Fear not, it was not your beloved production crew that failed, but the corporate conglomerate that has decided to thwart our meticulously rehearsed plans. Our beautifully crafted introduction was silenced by Zoom's insistence on removing background music, and our interviewer Luca's sweet melodic voice got hopelessly lost in a silent loop of double microphone feedback loop hell. All of it goes to show that we would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those meddling corporate entities. And because of that, we have fully committed to twitch.tv as our platform of choice. And next year's morning entertainment program will no longer be called ZuMUN and Friends, but will instead be rebranded under the new name TwitchMoon and the Bezos Boys. In other news, we now have a segment from a correspondent in central Zurich. Yes, thank you, Dan. Yes, I'm here in Zurich, where the World Intellectual Property Organization is meeting this weekend. With a full written article on press.zumun.ch, we report that the organization is currently debating the regulation of open source publishing. The Die Weltwoche journalist who wrote the full article described the discussion thus far as very civil. Contrary to this analysis, we here at ZuMUN and Friends are expecting the council to devolve into a full-scale brawl and are preparing accordingly for the impending riot. More on that story as it evolves. Back to the studio. Thanks, Dan. Now, let's check on with our France correspondent for a report on the WHO. Yes, thank you. I am here in Paris, France, a location of furious debate and spurious concerns amongst members of the World Health Organization. The body had been discussing, amongst other things, the occurrence of zoonoses. For the uninitiated, zoonoses are infectious diseases in humans caused by pathogens born from animal hosts. These cross-species infections can occur when a person eats animals, such as bats, pangolins, or Aunt Linda's prize guinea pig, Helen Jr. I fear, since we're in a pandemic, I may become too emotional if I report on this any further. So if you want to hear more about this story, head over to press.zumun.ch. Now, back to the studio.
Thank you, Dan. I today was tasked by our friendly production team to read out a fan letter that arrived at our office just this morning. Here it goes. Greetings and felicitations, my dearest ZuMUN Organizing Committee. It was agonizing to bear the cancellation of last year's conference. It felt as if a part of my heart had died and a fraction of my soul had been lost. Nonetheless, the start of this year's ZuMUN conference, the loveliest MUN conference in Switzerland, has made my heart blossom anew with verve, and my soul has become a new whole again. Although it is saddening that all the delegates, including me, your utmost admirer, is deprived of the chance of a lovely ride in Zurich's public transport system to the first session of the day after had only 3 hours of sleep because you and your fellow youngsters forgot the time caused by the immense fun of the various social activities in the evening. The socials were not only the sole reason why one only went to bed after the first rays of the sun tickled into the night sky. Affairs of the flesh and heart were also a reason, and to think that this year the delegates will miss out on this is utterly distressing. However, not all is lost. I, your unconditional admirer, am again impressed by the sheer amount of effort put into the planning of the conference. You have sent me a package that has been assembled with greatest care, a gesture that has deeply touched the long-forgotten corners of my heart. You have yet again carefully planned, spine-tingling socials for which my whole being has been profoundly longing for. You have yet again proven to me what love means. With that, I shall end my letter. Love, your #1 fan. Just beautiful. On another note, earlier today, Theo here sat down with the Secretary Generals to ask them some questions.
So sweet of this person to send us such a lovely letter. What more could we hope for? But now I have the two Secretary Generals of ZuMUN with me, Jessica Fenger and Ferdinand Baune, and I hope you will answer some questions that I think will very much interest our viewers at home. Now, I think the most obvious question really is about our online format. So for the first months of planning, we really hoped for an in-person conference, but it was quite a challenge, I think, to quickly switch to the online format. Maybe could you tell us a little bit about how that went about?
Well, the fun part is that after the first time we canceled the conference, the organizing committee said that we would never ever do an online conference. And I'm very pleased that we quickly switched our minds and decided in January, I think. Yeah, in January to quickly just change all of the planning we'd be doing for 1.5 years, which gave us enough time to provide you with the wonderful online conference that you now are experiencing.
Yeah, I think we were very naive in 2020 when we had to cancel. And I think, everyone was naive when the pandemic started and when we didn't know what would happen in the coming year, that we actually thought we could have an in-person conference in 2021. And now looking at the numbers, we were at an even worse position for that. So there was no chance that we were ever going to have an in-person conference. So now this, with all these delegates, is, I think, more than we could have asked for at this point.
Absolutely.
So another burning question, I think, is how did you actually become SGs? What is the process to become an SG?
That's a fun story. I think Ferdi was interested first. I don't know, because
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because I heard through the grapevine that Ferdi was gonna do it.
Involved, yeah.
Yes, they were very great because we didn't really talk to each other first, and we heard like through the grapevine, Ferdi from ETH is gonna do it, Jess from Utah is going to do it, and because we were both working in the same department before in committees and chairs, we knew that we worked well together, and so then we finally decided. I think the first time we actually talked about it was through text. This Ferdi's like, "You're running for SG2, right?" And then, yeah, and so that was
So there is some kind of election going on for the SG.
Formally, yes, but we ran unopposed, and
Yes.
we were actually able to couple some demands with our election. So, for instance, we have the demand that we wanted to have a team of undersecretaries that we have now, and that has worked brilliantly. So.
So that wasn't the case before, or
that wasn't the case before. But SGs always tend to have some sort of leeway into how they want to change the processes, how they want to change the conference, and sort of make it their own. But yeah, there is a sort of selection process, I would say, because it's usually more that you get asked instead of that you.
It's mostly like current board members that approach you, or maybe previous SGs that sort of approach you if they see that you're motivated. Yeah.
So basically, you're taking up a huge responsibility when assuming the SG position, I guess, right?
Yes.
and we know how much. We are now the two longest serving Secretary Generals.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that later. Let me first ask you something else. So you mentioned before that you had a good working relation. As your working relation, I assume there's a lot of stress on and there's a lot of responsibility weighing on you. Has your working relation or relation in general suffered from?
Is this couples therapy? Like,
No, it is not. It's a great question. It might interest our viewers at home.
Okay, Ferdi, I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay, I think our working relation has improved a lot. I think just by overcoming so many difficulties, you eventually learn to trust each other, and you learn to trust the other person's judgment, and that means that you can actually share the burden. So it's not two people doing the same job, so that one person is always doing like that work that gets done twice, but you can actually divide things up, trust the other person, and just trust that things get done. And if you don't have that trust, you wouldn't be able to do the job at least the way we are doing it.
Yeah.
That is so true. Yeah, because I don't even worry. Like first of all, like we divide work very sort of organically. Like it's very much like, oh, there's stuff that I like to do better, there's stuff that Ferdi likes to do better, and we just do it. And there's not much discussion after. Like I don't really go and like, Ferdi, did you really do this? You know, like have you remembered to do this? Like I don't. It's such a relief as an SG because you can really be like, oh, I'm giving up this responsibility and this burden, and I just don't have to worry about it, so I can focus on my part. Yeah, so that works.
And I think to that extent, our undersecretaries have actually done a very good job.
Yes.
That we also have another level of trust where we can trust people that things get done, that we don't have to worry about them. So that makes our job a whole lot better.
Yeah.
A whole lot more focusing on what we want to focus on instead of what we have to focus on.
So I guess maybe my next question is kind of redundant, but would you ever organize an event of this scale again?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess so, because it sounded pretty positive what you've said so far. So I guess you're also satisfied with how things turned out. Are the committees to your liking?
Yeah. No, I mean, really, yeah. I mean, the fact that the main conference, just sort of like the foundations of the conference, which is like the chairs, the committees, and everything, has gone really, really smooth so far, that we could then take on the extra risk and do like the morning show, for example, and all these extra creative things that we're doing on top of that is because the rest of the conference is already going really well, I think.
I think the largest worry that I had is that we can't reach delegates, because if it's a physical in-person conference, you can always just approach them and go to them. They are sitting in a room next door, so you can just go there, and they won't, like, even if if the internet fails, you can physically approach them. And you can't do that here, but I think we've in many ways managed to reach delegates in some way.
So you mentioned before that you two are the first ever ZuMUN Secretary Generals to serve 2 years. Is there
two consecutive
years?
Yeah,
consecutively serve.
That's true.
2 years.
Shu has done it twice.
Is there something you learned while doing that? Do you think you did the second time, so 2021, differently?
Yes.
Definitely. I mean, there were a lot of mistakes that not a lot of, but there were mistakes, or in our first term, we didn't have to make those mistakes in the second term. We actually got a chance to do things right, to do things properly. So that was, I think, very satisfactory.
Yeah, you also just learn a lot, because we have to work a lot with Faust ETH, which is this like the student union of ETH and all these things, and it's just really the first year. It takes you a year just to figure out what is going on most of the time, and then so that we had the chance of the second year where we're like, actually, we know how this goes, we know when what needs to be done, was quite helpful. Yeah.
So you said there were some things going wrong in 2020. Is there something you remember very vividly?
Oh. There was this one guy on the OC.
Okay. Yes. Gossip.
Yeah, he was. He was a colossal failure, certainly. So he had to, with the cancellation and all, he had actually booked a boat. He had actually booked us an entire cruise ship, basically, to go on Lake Zurich. And with the cancellation, he had already signed the contract, and so that was a whole huge mess. Especially since we wanted to make it an environmentally friendly conference. So that was.
So it was a contract that you basically couldn't get out anymore.
It was a huge mess.
Oh, okay.
very, very problematic. But of course, our leadership skills, I think,
have improved. We can clearly tell that your viewers at home that these two here have done a very great job for the ZuMUN 2021 conference. Thank you for joining me today, for answering all of these questions. And now I will hand it over to Luca. This interview was pre-taped earlier today, as Luca mentioned before. And now we go on to, oh, wait a second. Oh, I'm hearing that we have an outraged caller in the line. It appears it's an Undersecretary General from the 2020 Secretariat, Andrew Schur. Andrew, welcome to ZuMUN and Friends. Please tell us why you're calling in. Andrew, Andrew, we cannot hear you yet on live TV. Just give us a second.
Is this his computer mic?
Maybe check that your computer mic is working. So.
Can you put your output to mic? Maybe try that.
Okay, we're using my phone now to directly send the caller to my microphone as well. I will. Is it better right now?
I'm not hearing you.
Okay, we will just put you to speaker on my phone and we'll have to try it like this. Andrew, can you still hear me?
What was that?
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, you're live on TV right now. Please, Andrew, tell us why you're calling in.
Well, first of all, hello everyone. My name is Andrew, and I was last year's USG Socials. And just generally speaking, the collaboration with the USGs was horrendous. It was as bad as having Corbyn and Bojo work together on a project. It was just
you're saying that all we heard in the interview before is basically wrong. So Chess and Ferdi just pretended to be working well together.
Well, maybe they were working well together themselves, but definitely not with me, the USG for Socials. Well, it all started when I was told that I was not allowed to drink at the Socials, despite me being the undefeated, reigning 3 times champion of Drunkmoon.
So,
I mean, every time.
So why did they not allow you to drink? I mean, that's fairly uncommon for an MUN conference, isn't it?
I mean, I am really lost. I had no clue why I was not allowed. I mean, I destroyed all of the delegates while being twice as intoxicated as the second best delegate.
Yeah, I think what is particularly strange, and I think the viewers we are on to hear something. The viewers, I think Andrew was also the USG of Socials. So isn't that kind of weird that they forbade you from drinking?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can imagine that was a certain personal vendetta by Ferdi, since I mean, he's our German self-proclaimed Oktoberfest hardened beer champion, but I mean, I outdrank him and destroyed in the discussions. So yeah, I mean,
so in general, is it really a problem with Ferdi and Chess? Is there anything else they did, or is it just you that had that feeling? I mean, we should try to be objective on TV, right?
Sure. Well, another thing was the rental of the cruise boat, which was I was pressured into renting one, since it should have been our prestige project, whilst the whole conference was actually pretending to be environmentally friendly. And then
the conference, just so that I get it right, the conference said it was environmentally friendly while they rented a boat.
Exactly. And,
okay, I mean, this is really outrageous.
And then they blamed me for not being environmentally friendly, which is, I mean, Jess, you're a freaking eco-hypocrite. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I agree with you, Andrew. But I think, thanks for your call, thanks a lot. But I think, thanks for shedding light on these terrible ongoings at ZuMUN. But I think it's still time to move on to the next segment of our show. And here's now Luca, who's again trying to speak to 2 chairs.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this segment of our morning show. I'm here with Moritz and Fastana, two of our chairs, and we'll be conducting a short interview to get some insights into what chairing really is. So I am Luca. I'm the Undersecretary General for Committees and Chairs, aka academics, as it is known in other places. I'm responsible effectively for interviewing and selecting chairs and making sure all the committees run smoothly during the conference. Adam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Moritz Adam. I'm a first-year doctoral student at the University of Zurich, where I'm doing a bit of research in Hebrew language literature. Essentially, yes. And this is my first ever Zurich Modern United Nations conference. It's I think my 16th overall, and I'm really glad to be involved because this is, since I've moved here about a year ago now, my hometown conference. So I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you, Moritz. Svetlana, what about you?
Hi, my name is Vazdana. I'm currently in my third year of international relations undergraduate studies in Belgrade, where I'm also from at the University of Belgrade. And this will be my second ZuMUN. I was a delegate 2 years ago in DISEC. And yeah, I am chairing the Security Council this year.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So, yeah, Svetlana, you've participated in past ZuMUNs, Moritz, you haven't yet. Anyway, so what generally speaking, what motivated you to go beyond delegatehood, if you will, and start chairing, take up.
Svetlana, do you want to go first?
Okay, sure. For me personally, I think there's kind of like an opinion within the MUN community where some people regard being a chair as like an upgrade to being a delegate. But in my opinion, for me personally, it was just a matter of challenging myself further and just kind of seeing what it's like, because I was always really curious as to what it's like to be a chair. I don't know if I'm doing a good job. The jury's still out on that one, but I'm really, really enjoying it thus far. So that's probably the main reason why I chose to try to be a chair.
Yeah, I think as for me, my main thing is I like the idea to see what actually goes into the build-up of the debates, because a lot of what chairs do is also sort of happening under the radar before the conference. I think the main thing, obviously, is writing the study guide on that, and I feel it's an enormously rewarding thing to debate as delegates. But also, I think it's great fun. It's a great joy to think what topics might be fitting for different committees, what topics might fit the circumstances of any one conference, and to research them, to write about them. And I think I've been very, very fortunate in early days as a delegate to have had very good chairs. And for me, it also looks like a way of giving back to people, of giving people the opportunity to benefit from good preparation, from interesting topics. And I think it's a two-way street. That's not only delegates or only chairs, but it's like an interaction. It's a sort of it's a relationship, which to me is very important.
Absolutely, I agree with you very much. I personally, I don't think there's anything worse than a new delegate can experience than a committee with a terrible chair that'll scare them away forever, effectively. So on to our next question. What have you learned through past and also present, so through ZuMUN, what have you learned through your past and present chairing experiences?
I can take that one. I think what I've learned is really how diverse MUN debating is. Because as you research a topic, as you write a study guide, you normally have like an idea in your head where you think this is probably where this debate is going to go. And then you sit in a committee with 20, 30, 40, maybe even more people, and everyone brings their perspective. And it really shows that on most issues, there are plenty of opinions, and you really challenge yourself in MUN to see what is out there, to look beyond your own horizons and to experience it. I think that really gives me always great pleasure, because it shows to me that I've done my part. I've had the opportunity to learn from other people now. And this combination, this mutual exchange is something that I find enormously powerful, actually.
Yeah, and adding on to that, I would definitely say that the intercultural aspect of the whole experience is something that is, I think, very unique and very unique to MUNs in general. And I think the most important thing with chairing and with MUN in general is just to kind of to not perceive that kind of otherness of your delegates in a cultural sense and in a language sense, in every single sense of the word, is like a divisive factor, but rather really something that kind of brings you all together in this big mix of really just ideas and opinions as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And personally, for me, I one thing I've learned, TBH, is that you can always learn more, and you definitely don't know everything as a chair, especially newcomers to MUN can always bring something refreshing, and yeah, in that sense, it's always a bit of a journey. Next up, I have some individual questions. I'll start with you, Fastana. Your ZuMUN sharing interview, the original one, happened way back in December 2019.
We've
You've been
come
on
full
board.
circle now.
Yeah, you've been on board for such a long time. What kept you interested in ZuMUN? I mean, you were even with us before that as a delegate. What has kept you on board for such a long time?
I think the reason that I came to ZuMUN the first time, I would just say, was curiosity, but the second time that I'm coming around would definitely be for the people. And I think what really makes ZuMUN unique from other conferences is just that you can clearly tell how much love and effort goes into preparing it. From the packages, the socials packages that we got, to the socials themselves, to this interview, right, and this whole ZuMUN and Friends idea, it's just very clear to me how much love goes into doing ZuMUN, and I think that really shows, and that's probably what kind of brought me back. And I think I was always, when I was a delegate back in DISEC, I was always really interested by the idea of chairing. So I told myself I really want to try to chair at least once at ZuMUN. And since 2020 didn't work out, when I was so kindly asked if I wanted to come back in 2021, of course, it was a no-brainer.
Thank you for the kind words. I'll definitely relay them to the socials department, who put really a lot of effort into making the online part of this a bit more engaging. For Moritz, out of all of our chairs, you've attended the most conferences, and I believe you're quite familiar with the English conference circuit, which has a reputation to be rather unique. How does UK MUN culture differ from other places?
I think it differs really in two ways. There's one thing in England in particular that sort of you get more character, so to speak. You get different eccentric people you wouldn't perhaps see so much elsewhere. I think the other thing, though, which I think is much more fundamental, is that England, to a certain extent, also because of how society and also its parliament works, has always maintained a different culture of debating compared to other places. I think, in a way, to coin that in one word or in one sentence, is that it's sort of the approach to disagree agreeably. So it can be much more forceful, it can be more intense, without people actually taking this personally, so that people can really have things that are looking close to a fight, and afterwards have a pint of beer together and be best friends again. I think so that spirit is something that I've always taken on for me as well, that it's important to detach yourself from things, and rather go ahead and essentially approach MUN through a lens where you say it's not my own opinion, it's not me as Morris Adams saying anything. It's rather other people going about other countries' business, and therefore it's helpful to sort of have that extra step, which helps to have more controversial, nuanced debates, I think. I think we've lost Luca. So maybe potentially, as long as he comes back, I don't know. I feel the idea is I think I've got some of the questions as well. So we'll just continue and see how we can deal with that.
Interview each other, I suppose.
I can just ask you your next question. I think
Sure.
maybe the thing is one of the other questions were what's your favorite modern United Nations related quote, pun, line, buzzword, etc.? What have you got anything that sort of sticks out to you in particular?
Actually, I think I remember a quote. I think it was back. Actually, yeah, I do remember it. It became kind of like a running joke when I was at another MUN in Geneva. and it was no swearing at the UN because we were at the UN building, and it was kind of like the catchphrase, because every time I would catch myself about to like say something that I really shouldn't, even if it was in private, I would be like, whoop, no swearing at the UN. And that was kind of like our go-to phrase in the committee. So I guess that one I remember.
So maybe for the benefit of Luca, I think we lost you for a few seconds. We just continue with the next question about our favorite MUN phrases and something like that to keep things rolling.
Right on. Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry, I had
That's all right. I mean, I can just go on maybe with my own as well. I'm going to sidestep that question. I hope Luca's going to forgive me for doing so, because I don't like the formality of saying like these MUN things. Like I don't like to say decorum delegates or anything of the sort. But rather, I think there's a quote which always stuck out to me, which I read many years ago actually, which I think is enormously relatable to MUN, even though it's not an MUN quote per se. And it's a quote by the Irish poet Oscar Wilde, who in a letter to his lover described a manner of approaching things as the so-called Oxford manner, which is to play gracefully with ideas rather than arriving at the violence of opinion merely. And I think just exchanging opinions is not conducive to any sort of debate. And essentially what we're doing by representing different countries, by representing different ideas, is to play gracefully with ideas. And I think that's sort of what I'd want people to take on family and debating.
absolutely one of the key tenets, I would say, of Model United Nations. Yeah, so thank both of you very much for showing up today. Yeah, our time has kind of elapsed. I wish both of you some wonderful committee sessions, and I hope that, yeah, the debate is going well, that you're both happy.
Thank you very much for having us. It's been actually a really great pleasure. And I hope that also the other delegations, the other committees are having just a blast as we are. I think from my perspective in WIPO, it's been absolutely stunning and superb so far. I hope it's going to continue just like that.
Same in the Security Council. So far, it's been absolutely amazing. And even though a lot of our delegates are first-timers, they're practically MUN veterans by now. I'm really impressed by the work of the committee.
That's great to hear. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Thanks a lot, Luca. And with that, our time is already up for today. It's been a pleasure. Stay healthy, have fun, and we will see you tomorrow on ZuMUN and Friends.